Welcome to the weather forecast on the CIA TV channel. Dear friends, in today's forecast, we'll break down what you need to know about Tropical Storm Erin in the video below. A powerful storm is forming in the Atlantic Ocean, and it's expected to get very close to land over the next few days, including areas like the Lesser Antilles in Puerto Rico. Then, as it continues to move north and west, it'll approach areas like Bermuda and could even impact the east coast of the United States. We'll start with what's happening across the Atlantic right now. This is Tropical Storm Erin, which has been strengthening over the past 24 hours. To start off today's forecast, let's talk about the potential for severe weather in the United States over the next few days. And we'll start with today. We have a small risk of severe weather moving forward, including areas like Fargo and Grand Forks in North Dakota, and then there's a marginal threat that covers over 5 million people across areas from Minneapolis to Nebraska. The main concern today will be strong winds with large hail. However, there's a very low chance of 1 or 2 isolated tornadoes late this afternoon into the evening. This includes areas like Fargo, just outside of International Falls and Grand Forks. And the severe weather threat will continue across the northern plains and Midwest, where we've got a severe weather warning with strong winds and large hail as the primary concern. There's a risk of tornadoes somewhere in eastern South Dakota or southwestern Minnesota. Today, I think we'll be fairly dry through the morning and late afternoon. Storms will likely start around 6 o'clock to 7 a.m. in northern South Dakota and eastern North Dakota. The primary threat is wind and hail, but the chance of tornadoes from any of the isolated storms is very low initially. And then eventually, as we move into the nighttime hours, that risk will gradually diminish as it moves toward Minneapolis. And then on Saturday, we expect a few more severe storms, primarily in western South Dakota with damaging wind tails and a low risk of tornadoes. And then Friday night into early Saturday morning, we expect a lot of storms to hit Minnesota and Wisconsin. And we had a major flood threat just a couple of days ago, developing in areas like Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I think something similar could happen as we move into Saturday morning. So that's something we'll be monitoring very closely. And if it looks more concerning tomorrow, and after Friday, the severe weather threat will continue across the northern plains and the Midwest as we expect to see the potential for some large-scale severe weather days. Which basically means we're not looking at an organized severe weather threat, but we could see localized areas of significant severe weather at times. So that's going to be something to watch for this weekend and early next week. And then into the middle and late next week, all of our attention will be on the tropics as we expect a storm to come very close to the United States around Wednesday and Thursday. Next up, let's talk about Tropical Storm Erin. It's expected to get very close to Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles, and then it's still unlikely that it will get very close, or even make landfall near the United States. But in fact, the next 48 hours, when Tropical Storm Erin makes landfall, will be critical in determining the long-term track of this storm. We can't rule out impacts yet, especially along the east coast. We may not even see landfall in the United States, but there could still be some moderate to major impacts along the coasts. But obviously there's going to be any further westward movement, which we've seen over the last 24 hours. If there's further westward movement, there's definitely cause for concern. Right now, it's moving into very warm waters. There's also very little wind shear. So this storm is expected to develop into a hurricane fairly quickly over the next 24 hours and eventually become a major hurricane as early as Saturday. And here's where Tropical Storm Erin is right now. It's still pretty far east of the Lesser Antilles, but it's moving pretty quickly and it's going to be north of the Lesser Antilles in Puerto Rico as we get into Friday and Saturday. I don't really see this becoming a serious situation. However, with these types of storm systems, they can sometimes go into Mexico and Texas and release a lot of moisture, which can sometimes lead to some major flooding. We had one of those this year that unfortunately killed over 100 people near Kerrville, Texas. This is another situation that we need to watch very closely. If enough moisture gets into Texas, there could be some issues, but at least for now, there's not much to predict, but that could change. And here's the forecast from the National Hurricane Center for Tropical Storm Erin. It's forecast to be a Category 1 to Category 2 storm as we head into late tonight and tomorrow. By Saturday, it's likely to become a major hurricane just north of Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles. I'd expect at least some tropical storm impacts if you get back to Puerto Rico or some of the northern islands of the Lesser Antilles. As we head into Sunday and Monday, that's where the uncertainty increases. There's still a chance that this storm could move further west, and if it does, it'll be very close to the United States as we head into the middle of next week, possibly near the Carolinas. There's also a chance that this storm will move a little offshore, but it could also pose a threat of major impacts near Bermuda. There's a pretty good chance this will be a Category 3 storm. There's also a chance it could be a Category 4 storm as we head into Sunday and Monday. So this is definitely something we need to watch very closely. As we go into Monday and Tuesday, pay attention to how strong this storm is. It could be anywhere from as far west as the Bahamas. It could be as far east as southeast of Bermuda. Whether or not this storm makes landfall in the United States, I think the chances of that are generally low. As we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when it's likely to be closest to the United States. Late Wednesday and Thursday, this storm will move to the north and northeast. It's basically going to move around this huge Bermuda high, and it's likely to turn to the north and northeast as we go into Thursday. But if it takes a more westerly track, you could see it get closer to the coast of the United States. There's a chance we could see it make landfall somewhere in the Carolinas, specifically North Carolina if we see it make landfall. And then, as we get into late Thursday and Friday, it's going to head offshore. And then, we'll probably see more tropical activity going on right around that Bermuda Ridge. But we don't know exactly what's going to happen after this incoming storm. And then, Sunday into Monday, it actually winds right into the Bahamas, strengthens into a major hurricane, and then gets very close to the east coast of the United States. This is an outlier, but it gives you an idea of what the extreme west scenario is basically at the moment, which is basically going to be near the Bahamas. There will be at least minor to moderate impacts along the east coast, including Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And then the potential for major impacts could exist if this storm tracks westward near Cape Hatteras. And then finally, as we get into Friday and Saturday, it's going to turn north and then out to sea. There could also be some impacts in New England if it follows this track. That's obviously a model. There are other models that show the same thing. But some of the more reliable models that we tend to use during hurricane season include things like the GFS model, which shows this as a fairly small storm through Sunday. And then it gets bigger as it moves toward Bermuda as we get into Monday, Tuesday, and then finally Wednesday, just west of Bermuda, weaving between the United States and Bermuda on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, it starts to head out to sea. So, while the chances of making landfall in the United States aren't very high, they're very low, to be honest. I still think the chances of making landfall are about 10%. I still think there could be impacts and they could be significant. We could also have storm surges, high waves. And Tropical Storm Florence, which is clearly a hurricane, has not followed the exact same trajectory as what we're seeing here with Tropical Storm Erin. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.